Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, April 20th. Commencing at 1 o'clock, electronic participation according to provincial regulations. Council is participating remotely from home. All of council are present. And myself and the clerk are here in council chambers, and the two deputy clerks on opposite sides of the balcony doing YouTube and taking the minutes, and that's it. Everybody else will be zooming in. So I'll call the meeting to order. Ask if you'll stand and observe O Canada with us. Thank you. Item 2.2, please join me for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Item 2.3 is the adoption of the open session agenda. Councillor Richardson, I think you have that, if you would.
I do, and through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Vale, that the agenda for the open session of the regular council meeting of Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 be adopted as circulated.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Call the question. All in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in anything on today's agenda? Seeing none from council, we'll move into item 4, which is notices and information by members of council and staff. Council, any announcements you would like to make? Councillor Richardson, go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, as the City of Kawartha Lakes Environmental Councillor, I would like to give a shout out to Earth Day this week, April 22nd. I know under the provincial orders that we can't do our normal community cleanups, but I encourage those that have that extra, we have that 3-bag limit still going. Take that last bag and try to do something on your roadways and in your ditches and help us clean up our communities. I also want to give a shout out to the new textile recycling program that the city launched last week, and to CLEAC's ongoing 2021 Be Hero Challenge and the Environmental Hero Challenge, which is all can be found on the city website. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Lindsay District Labour Council accordingly extends an invitation for everyone to join them in the National Day of Mourning celebration ceremony. This event will take place Sunday, April the 25th at 2021 at 1 p.m. virtually. The Lindsay District Labour Council would like your assistance to have all flags lowered to half-mast for Wednesday, April the 28th. the Lindsay District Labor Council would like to encourage you or a representative to lay a wreath. In these particular times, we have to recognize what all our essential workers are doing. They're keeping us fed, they're keeping us safe during these troubling times. I think it's a special time that we should recognize them. I've already had a conversation with you, Mr. Mayor, and the CAO, and my understanding is the flags will be lowered. So to all the workers out there that are getting us through this times, thank you very much.
Well said, thank you, and it will be done on the 28th. Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly and then Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Mayor. The budget yesterday, according to AMO, has significant new spending on policies of interest by Ontario municipal governments. It's particularly in the area of affordable housing, also broadband internet expansion, also the area of tourism sector, and also in transit, and also in long-term care. There was money in the budget for it as well. And recently, I just made an announcement in Dunsford, Thurston area that 300 homes in that area will be able to access high-speed internet in the near future. It's a major investment from the federal government.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple announcements. Every spring, the Canadian Cancer Society Daffodil Campaign rallies Canadians to support and remember those affected by cancer. With nearly 1 in 2 Canadians diagnosed in their lifetime, almost all of us are impacted by some way. Cancer hasn't stopped being a life-threatening disease during the COVID-19 pandemic, so we can't stop our life-changing work either. For the second year in a row, we've now had to suspend all of our face-to-face fundraising activities in order to keep everyone safe, so we need your help more than ever. Your support during the Daffodil campaign can ensure that no one faces cancer alone. From funding groundbreaking research to better prevent, detect, and treat cancer, to enabling a nationwide support system, together we can make a real difference for people affected by cancer during the pandemic and beyond. Now more than ever, the daffodil's sunny symbol serves as a meaningful reminder to us that together we can look ahead to better days. The daffodil survives our harsh winters, and every spring these resilient flowers are there waiting to bloom. And when daffodils bloom, hope grows. Right. And today I'm wearing my daffodil here in memory of my late mother, who fought a courageous battle with cancer 25 years ago. So this one's for her today. Second announcement is the supporters, as a member of the Board of Governors for the Ross Memorial Hospital, supporters of the CT imaging are partners in precision care. Yesterday, it was announced at the hospital exactly 20 years ago, local healthcare was transformed with the acquisition of the community's first CT scanner, formerly known as a CAT scan. CT scanner, it was a landmark achievement that would not have been possible without generous donations from the public. Donor support was instrumental in 2011 when the Ross Memorial's original CT scanner was replaced with an advanced model that produced pinpoint accuracy in less time with less radiation. CT imaging is a critical tool for diagnosing injuries and disease and for guiding surgeries and cancers. And Dr. Jamie McNabb, the general surgeon at the hospital, is partnering with the RMH Foundation to highlight the urgent need for a new state-of-the-art CT scanner at the Ross Memorial Hospital. Dr. McNabb joined the Ross Memorial's team of surgeons in 2001. So 20 years ago, on April 20th, there were 400 people came to the hospital for the open house to see the new CT scanner and celebrate this major community accomplishment, said Aaron Coombs, RMH Foundation CEO. The impact of the CT imaging is as critical to patient care today as it was 20 years ago. Once again, we're counting on donors to be our partners in precision care and keep this indispensable technology here at the Ross. And just as a personal note, our oldest son was one of the first users of this CT scan in May of 2001 after a farm accident, but it was certainly a great asset to have there at the hospital when it was needed. And hopefully you can support this campaign, please, on behalf of the Ross Memorial Hospital Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Seymour Fagan, go ahead.
Yes, and thank you through you. I just wanted to give a big shout out to the entire community, not just Bob Cajun, but for sure Bob Cajun, all our volunteers who worked so tirelessly on the craft hockey bill. But it was not just our, our village that did that. It was the entire Kawartha Lakes, including staff, from community services to communications, and all the support that we received. Congratulations to the winners, which was New Brunswick, Elsie Pogtog. And yeah, it was a fun thing, and it brought the community together. So thank you very, very much.
It was a good time. Thank you. Any other announcements from council? Okay, I have a personal note I'd like to say. I have decided I will not be seeking a third term as your mayor, so will not be running in the next municipal election. I want to say we have accomplished much together as a team. I know we have much more to do, so let's just keep going. Thank you. Staff, CAO Ron Taylor, I believe you have something you want to share with us. There he is. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, you asked for an update on some of the recent pandemic announcements provincially. So I'll just highlight a few things. We have been putting these out in steady communications as they've been rolling in, but as you can appreciate, some have been updated and changed. So a couple of milestones or highlights. So you'll recall April 3rd was when the emergency brake was activated by the province. And shortly thereafter, on April 7th, and effective the next day, was the provincial state of emergency being declared. And with that, a stay-at-home order. And that order was issued up to May 6th at that particular time or announcement. And so following those series of announcements, the city mobilized to comply with those directives and orders. There wasn't a lot of change respecting sort of our overall operations, but it did have the effect of closing some additional facilities and services. That included our arenas, community halls and community centers, pools, fitness centers, our service centers, our libraries, and our courts. And I'm saying this for public access. There were a few that remained operational with curbside service where it made sense, or we did electronic or audio conferencing for the courts, for example, ongoing. Other essential functions remained operational with some limitations or restrictions based on the directives. That includes landfills, our transit service, our call center operations remained open, and predominantly all of our services have and will continue, but again, with certain restrictions and delays depending on the nature of that service. There was follow-up announcements late last week, and some of those announcements and changes were effective either on the weekend or as of yesterday, April 17th and or 19th. The stay-at-home order was extended that was previously announced up till at least May 20th. And there were some further restrictions that were directed by the province as well. So predominantly the changes there were more work from home. They were adding restrictions that really essentially limited or minimized public trips and gatherings. So whether that was external community events or certain non-essential business functions, those were the additional restrictions that were put out there. So what we did as a response from the municipality's perspective, we did enact or expand on our work from home where it was feasible or practical. Non-essential functions in particular, they'll continue to be operational, but will be outside of our facilities. Similarly, outdoor rec facilities were closed. That was directed by the province. And so we've gone through that listing of those specific amenities that should be closed during the stay-at-home order and are responding accordingly. I will note that parks do remain open for walkthrough and access, as do playgrounds and equipment. They do remain open as part of that updated directive. From an operation standpoint, we're predominantly completed now. Our winter season certainly wound down now, and really focusing on our readiness and or starting spring season operations in the various departments. That includes sort of prepping for later spring, early summer amenities, like public washroom provision in the parks. But again, up until May 20th, all other outdoor amenities will remain closed. Our emergency services and our human services remain fully operational. And again, we're focusing on sort of the essential service without any or sort of seamless transition to those, and our non-essential, we continue to maintain as best we can under the circumstances and directives. So that's my update. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I assume no other staff have any announcements. They would have let me know. So we'll move into item 5, which is the council minutes. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the March 23rd, 2021 regular council meeting be received and adopted, please? Moved by Councillor Yeo, seconded by Councillor Vale. Any questions, comments? All in favor? That motion is passed. Thank you. We have no deputations today. Item 6. Item 7, correspondence, we have none. Item 8, presentations, we have none. We'll move right into Committee of the Whole. Extractions for Committee of the Whole, I have 931, the deputation regarding a high water bill has been extracted by Councillor Ashmore. I have 935 and 936, correspondence about the guaranteed basic income has been extracted by Councillor Elmsley. I'm extracting 939, which was the presentation from the committee to rebuild the Ops Community Center. There's just a typo in the minutes, so we're just going to make a quick change there. 9317 is the report, the election sign bylaw update, extracted by Councillor Ashmore. 9318 is the proposed direct sale of a portion of Denfield Road, has been extracted by Councillor Ashmore. And 9320, the Community Partnership and Development Fund, has been extracted by Councillor Vale. Are there any other extractions from the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, can I get a motion that the minutes of the April 6, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting be received and the recommendations included in section 9.3 of the agenda, except 931, 935, 936, 939, 9317, 9318, and 9320 be adopted? I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Dunn. Any questions? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. First extraction is 931 was the deputation from Marsha Watson, Travis Doble regarding a high water bill in Lindsay. Councillor Ashmore, go ahead, your extraction.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully my camera is still working. I know it hasn't been a good day the last 24 hours for connections, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me, but my camera might go in and out. Anyways, I'd like to receive, first of all, a motion to receive this, please, and then I have a follow-up motion, please.
Motion to receive the deputation, Councillor Dunn, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All in favor? That's passed. Follow-up motion. Go ahead, Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to offer the following motion that the deputants, Marsha Watts and Travis Doble, be offered a 50% one-time rebate. And I'll speak to it if I can get a seconder.
Councillor, I'm not sure I can allow that motion. Item 932 on the agenda we just passed is that the owner of 121 123 William Street North be offered a 6-month payment plan waiving interest and penalty for the payment of the high water bill. That was just passed by council. So we can't go against that recommendation now. We've just passed it. So that's the one I guess you should have extracted if you were looking to change the recommendation.
I could, Mr. Mayor, just a point of order.
Go ahead.
On a point of order, the motion made by Councillor Ashmore doesn't necessarily violate that. We could still offer them a 6-month payment plan, and we could certainly still offer them a waiver of any fees or penalties associated with that water bill. If it turns out his motion passes, the only thing that we're out is the fact that we're giving him 6 months to pay for his water bill. But the other two issues are would be moot simply because there wouldn't be a penalty and there wouldn't be, or they can stand and still waive the penalty and the interest charges.
So go with the fifth, what was the motion again, Councillor Ashmore? Just say it again.
Yeah, that the deputants, Marcia Watts and Travis Doble be offered a 50% one-time rebate.
Okay, and then if that goes through, then the balance will be put on the payment plan, I guess. So, okay, no, that's a good point. I'll allow that. So you're moving that. You'll second that, Councillor Dunn, I assume?
I will.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, thank you for allowing that. So in front of me here, I've got this report here. This is report number CP 2017-006. It's the high bill adjustment policy that previous council passed, and it was approved on April 18th, 2017, and our council revised it on September 24th, 2019. And I'll just read, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to read 2 paragraphs on this. And the first 2 proves that these individuals, these owners, these water users are eligible for this rebate. Definition, number 1, it's high bill, is a bill that is 2 times the normal consumption for the same period in the previous year based upon daily average consumption. And number 2, leak. Leak means an unintentional water loss that is caused by circumstances beyond the control of the property owner. Example, broken and/or malfunctioning pipes within a residence or building. A leak occurs when there is a failure on the plumbing system to do what it was designed to do. And also, the third factor is obviously the owners could not access the residence, the apartment that this occurred at because of COVID. They have to give not just 2 weeks notice, but probably about a month's notice. So, you know, they couldn't access this property to look after it. These are people who, as we remember, Councillor Dunn had spoken to this, have spent a tremendous amount of money investing in this property and improving it, and they're very proactive in looking after their property. So I just felt that, you know, the statement, it's all here, and we endorse the statement. I think we should follow council policy and give these people a 50% rebate, one-time rebate.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your support.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, you seconded it. Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I'm going to point out the fact that Section 2 talks about toilets and says you can't do it because of running toilet. But then when you get into, where'd it go? I lost it. Into Section 11, it talks about hidden leaks. By virtue of the fact that these people were unable to access their property, that leak is, to them at least, is a hidden leak. And I think the policy should apply. And that's why I'm supporting this motion.
Thank you. So for those very reasons, I won't support the motion. Item 2.9 of the same policy approved by this council says the following circumstances will not qualify for an adjustment to account: water loss resulting in high consumption from circumstances within the control of the property owner, not limited to obvious leaks, plumbing fixtures, taps, toilets, water softeners, irrigation, and so on. So I guess no situation fits into a policy perfectly. I'll recognize that, but I think you're opening up a door that for leaky toilets that if this goes through, then there's a whole lot of other people should be jumping through that same hoop. So I'll speak against it for the same reasons.
And just
Any-
as a,
Oh, hold on.
just as-
Anyone else want to ask a question or comment? Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I said at the previous meeting, being a former landlord, my brother and I, we were always very aware that being a landlord, these situations arise. And you know that you're going to have leaky taps, you're going to have this, and you're going to have that. And certainly to say that you can't get in, if there's an emergency, if there's things that need to be fixed, of course you can get in. I don't care whether it's COVID or it's not COVID. You're going to, if something's going on in the apartment, you have every right to go in to fix them. You're not, whether it's a stove or whatever, a fridge that isn't working or functioning. So I just think that I know these people have fixed up the property well, and it makes it look a whole lot better. But I know in our situations that we just accepted the responsibility. If we're going to be in the landlord business, we could have put our money in the bank and got your interest, or if you're going to, it's kind of buyer beware, you're going to have, that's part of your responsibility that we accepted. But I just can't support it on those grounds.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Councillor Ashmore, do you want? Oh, Councillor Dunn, I need to see a hand or I can't tell you want to speak. Go ahead.
I just wanted to finish off what I was saying before you jumped in first time. In this particular case, yes, if they had not had the opportunity to go onto their property and do routine maintenance and routine inspection, I would probably agree with Councillor O'Reilly. But COVID stopped that. Yes, if you have an emergency, you can make arrangements to go in and fix it. But if you don't know you have an emergency, it's pretty hard to make arrangements to go in and fix it. COVID shut everything down. It shut access to the property. People weren't able to get into their properties to make routine inspections. And that's why this one is different. I figured out what it's going to cost me because I'm one of the water payers. This will cost me 1 cent on a 3-month bill. I'm sure that myself, well, I know myself, and I'm sure the vast majority of water bill payers would probably be able to spread 1 penny over a 3-month period on their water bill. This is a plan that helps all water users. It's kind of like an insurance plan. And for me to pay a penny every 3 months to help somebody else out, I think it's a pretty decent investment.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, do you want to sum up?
Yeah, I just, it's been said here, these are extenuating circumstances. These owners were doing their due diligence and protecting the health of the residents and not going in there. They were obeying the provincial orders. That's what they were doing. So we can't knock them for doing that. And, you know, they could have rushed in there and done it, but they would have violated people's rights and broken orders too. So I would ask for a recorded vote if I could please on this, because I really feel that that they should be allowed this under these circumstances, especially COVID, because it's got us all behind the 8 ball, and we have to live with this, and property owners have to put up with this. So let's give these people a helping hand here, a one-time helping hand, and appreciate your support if we could. Thank you.
Thank you. Recorded vote requested by Councillor Ashmore. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Councillor Ashmore,
In favor.
Councillor Dunn,
In favor?
Councillor Vale,
Opposed?
Deputy Mayor O'Reilly,
Opposed?
Councillor Seymour Fagan,
Opposed.
Councillor Yeo,
In favor?
Councillor Elmsley,
In favor?
Councillor Richardson,
In favor.
Mayor Latham.
Opposed. Motion passes 5-4. Okay, thank you. Next extraction is item 936, correspondence from Marina Hodgson, the Kawartha North Family Health Team, and Marge Cox regarding Bill C-273 being a national strategy for guaranteed basic income. Go ahead, Councillor Elmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, should I do 935 and 936 together?
No, but you can do 936 and 937 together.
All righty. First, I'll ask a motion to receive.
So the 2 letters of correspondence from 936 and 937 that they be received. Moved by
Yes.
Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All in favor? That's passed. Follow-up motion, Councillor Elmsley, go ahead.
Yeah, just on my agenda, Mr. Mayor, it shows that the 2 items of correspondence are 935 and 936, and that 937 is correspondence regarding the Lindsay BIA and garbage.
You are correct, I was mistaken, sorry. So it's 935 and 936 are the 2 correspondence from the regarding basic income, so go ahead.
Okay, we don't need to go back and change the receive motion?
It's just the two correspondents from the two organizations regarding the guaranteed basic income, so I think we're fine.
Okay, great. And I have a follow-up motion, and if I get a seconder, I'll speak to it. And the motion is that the City of Kawartha Lakes Council write a letter to MP Jamie Schmale and Minister Chrystia Freeland in support of Bill C-273, which act would provide much-needed answers about how a guaranteed basic income could work in partnership with the provinces, what effect it would have on the efficiencies of government, how it could support entrepreneurship and job creation in a new economy, and how it would impact labor market participation and civic action, and how it would impact recipients and their communities at large. And if I get a seconder, I will speak to it.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Elmsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back, you will recall that we did have a trial for a guaranteed basic income here in the city of Kawartha Lakes, along with the city of Hamilton and the city of Thunder Bay. But those trials were brought to an abrupt conclusion with a change in government. We're just in the midst and coming through this pandemic, and when we come out of it, we aren't sure what the economy is going to look like. We know that for some 2,000 plus years, we've been trying to deal with poverty and have not been very successful. It's still with us today, and it's probably worse today than it may have been in years gone by. And I think that trying something different, like a guaranteed basic income, or at least having a conversation, which is all that's being asked, is that we look at what the implications are. And if that means doing another trial, then I think that would be a good thing, because clearly what we're doing is not working. It also doesn't mean that people are going to be paid to sit home and play video games. The evidence for that is that there are no more exceptions to guaranteed basic income than there are to the current EI system or the current welfare system. You're always going to have people who try and take advantage of the law, but that's why we have social service people and other people who look after these things and hopefully do a good job in limiting how many of those abuses take place. I think that the benefits far outweigh the downside of this whole effort. What we have is evidence based on studies that have been done in other countries and studies that were done with an experiment in Manitoba back in the 70s, when we know that mental health challenges were reduced. We know that visits to the emergency room were reduced by at least 8%. We know that crime was reduced. We know a number of positive things that came out of it, but we don't have all the answers. And I'm not saying that this is the total answer, but it certainly would be something that's worthwhile getting a conversation going and seeing what the possible implications could be. I think that for people who are trepidatious about this whole thing and think that it is the end of the world or absolute socialism, should take note that when we embarked on old age security, basically what we did was a guaranteed income for senior citizens over 65. Basically, we eliminated poverty for folks over 65. And I think that if you take the same philosophy and apply it here, you would find that there are many benefits. And as I say, we're not embarking on a road where we're saying, well, we're going to write a letter and we want you to do it tomorrow. What we're doing is we're writing a letter and asking that a conversation take place and that a study done to see if this is something worthwhile and whether we should reinstitute the trials that were cut short. And I do recall, Mr. Mayor, that at the time the trial was cut short, you did say that you were disappointed and had hoped that it would continue to the end until such time as we could get evidence on what this might look like. So I'm hoping that council will support sending a letter asking that this conversation take place between the federal government and the provinces and that Bill C-273 gets some support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, you seconded it. Do you want to speak to it?
I will, and through you. Thank you, Councillor Emsley. That was really well said. I think a lot of us have been faced with a lot of emails in the last little while, and we have a lot of vulnerable folks out there. So I think, sending a letter at this time for some consideration and looking at it through a different lens is something that we should support at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments? Councillor Seymour Fagan, then Councillor Dunn. Go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you, through you. I understand the movers' point in this, but it's not our business. It's the federal government, it's not the municipality, it's just not our business. And I just think we should stay out of this as we've stayed out of the other federal and provincial business.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, go ahead, sir.
I'm going to speak against it as well. We just saw the budget. We have a $300+ billion deficit this year. We're not talking we're talking about getting it down to $30 billion in 5 years or 6 years. The federal government doesn't have any money. Not money that they're well, they don't earn money, but not money that they're getting. They're just going into debt. And they're destroying the economic prospects for generations to come. The old age security system doesn't work. You try to convince anybody that that's their sole source of income, that they're doing fine, and they'll laugh you out of the room. If we want them to fix something, fix the old age security, fix ODPS from the province side, fix Ontario Works. But don't add another program costing more billions of dollars when the 3 programs we're running very poorly. So I don't see the value of having another program that doesn't work on the books.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead.
Thank you very much, through you. I'm not sure which way I'm going to vote, but if it's just to have a conversation, I can probably support it. But recently, British Columbia had a 3-person panel out there, and they decided that this wasn't a good thing for their province. They wanted to increase the existing programs, and rather than having a guaranteed annual income, there was a suggestion for them to do it. So, anyways, that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councillor Yeo, go ahead.
Yeah, and I could probably support it just because it is for conversation, but I'm leery of it simply for the fact that the government brought out CERB last summer for when the pandemic wasn't near as bad as it is now. And as a business owner and talking to other business owners, you couldn't find anybody to work because they were more than comfortable to sit at home and collect that basic income they were getting. And so I know it's not an argument that a lot of people would like, but you know what? I will support it just if it's going to start a conversation, because nothing gets done without conversation, one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Elmsley, do you want to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think that nothing is perfect, and it is to start a conversation. and to look at something. And I think to Deputy Mayor O'Reilly's point, they did have a panel and they did look at it and made a decision. And that's all that we're asking here, is that a conversation take place, that somebody look at it and see if there are merits to it. And what we're doing certainly isn't working, and I don't see it being changed as we go forward. So I think that trying something different is the way to go. And I believe that this is our business because we do look after our citizens, and we did have a trial ongoing in our municipality, which was cut short. So I think that it does bring it back to our table to deal with. And again, what we're asking for is a conversation between the federal government and the provincial government to see if there is anything in this that it has merit. So I hope you support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councillor Ashmore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor. All opposed? 4 opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into the next extraction, which is 939. I extracted, it's just a typo. The original motion was that the petition received from Dennis Callahan and Karen Lynch regarding a presentation from the Committee to Rebuild Ops Community Centre be received. It wasn't a petition, it was a presentation. So I just need to change that motion for the minutes that the presentation be received from Dennis Callahan, Karen Lynch regarding the Committee to Rebuild the Ops Community Centre. So I just need a mover and a seconder for that one. Just a housekeeping. Councillor Elmsley and Dunn, thank you. All in favor? That's passed. Next extraction is 9317, the election sign bylaw update. Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll put forward a motion to receive, and then I have a follow-up motion, please.
Motion that the sign bylaw be received. Councillor Ashmore, move it. Second by Councillor Yeo. All in favor? That's passed. Follow-up motion, Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 281 of your agenda, this is where I'm referring to under section C, elect again. So what I'm proposing is that this be omitted. And I'd like to put forward a motion that elect again, that letter C be omitted. And if I could get a seconder just for discussion, I'd appreciate that. So everybody's all frozen up here.
That's okay. Let me just find it in the original. Is it in the original report?
Yes, it's in the bylaw. Under definitions.
Yeah, page 5 of 12. Section 2.04, terminology. I can read it anyways, if you like.
Okay, so, under, 2.04, okay, hold on, sorry. Terminology,
Yeah,
where it
Yes.
says elect again may be used if the candidate was elected to the same office in the past but is not the incumbent.
yes, that one there, yeah.
So you're proposing that the bylaw be amended to section 2.04, item C be removed, period? Is that what you're proposing?
Yes, please. Yes, yes, I am, please.
Okay, so let's see if we can get a seconder and then we can have a discussion. Councillor Dunn will second it. Go ahead, Councillor Ashmore.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to read it here. Elect again. Hopefully everybody can hear me. We're kind of lagging here in our connections here, but hopefully you can hear me. So it says elect again. First of all, I want to thank our clerk for putting this together. I know it's a lot of work doing this, and I appreciate that. But I'm having some issues with this here. So here it is here. Elect again may be used on a sign or literature or any campaign if the candidate was elected to the same office in the past but is not the incumbent. If ward boundaries or electoral division boundaries have changed since the last time the candidate held office, the candidate shall only use the term elect again if the majority of the former geographic area of the office they previously held is contained within the current geographic area of the office they are currently a candidate for. So basically, I'm having a big issue with this here because what it does, it's going to make it so confusing for people when they see on a sign, you have three options here: incumbent, re-elect, or elect again. I'll give you an example, and I'll talk about the one ward that I could talk about. And I'll talk about Ward 6 as an example. When it was changed to Ward 6 in 2018, for the 2018 section, it actually was composed of the following wards, little bits of every one, not a lot, but a little bit of Ward 10, Ward 12 in the south, Ward 13, Ward 14, a bit of Ward 15, and Ward 16, a little bit of that. So basically you've got all those wards. You're going to have candidates that maybe were councillors or candidates in those wards. They're going to say, well, I can be elected again. How are we going to be measuring the geographical area? Who's going to be doing the measuring of how big a geographical area that a former councillor had and is eligible to run and put the words elect again in? It is so confusing. And I think it's really going to confuse voters. There's only one incumbent. There's only one person to re-elect. This is the first election that we're going to have after we've gone down to 8 wards. So, and now we're going to use the term elect again. I really think it's going to confuse this whole election process. And I think for the betterment of everybody involved, just not use that term because it's just going to cause mass confusion. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, you seconded it. Do you want to speak to it?
I just wanted to hear the argument. I kind of think he might be right. It is confusing. I don't see it as a huge issue for me, but it's a really interesting argument. I'd like to hear what everybody else has got to say.
Thank you. Well, I'll weigh in. Never afraid to weigh in. I have no issues with it being removed. I think we shouldn't be telling candidates what they should be able to put on a sign. If they're not an incumbent, they can't put re-elect. But if a councillor wants to put on a sign, I was a previous councillor and I'm running again, we shouldn't be saying you have to say it this way. Put on a sign whatever you want, in my opinion. So I'm fine with removing it. I think it does create some confusion. I just sometimes find it a funny argument. Would the argument be different if you weren't an incumbent councillor running again? But hey, you know what? I don't think we should be telling folks out there what they should be able to put on a sign, except they can't put re-elect if they're not an incumbent councillor. I agree with that. So I don't have an issue with removing it at all, and neither does the clerk. I just got the nod from Kathy as well. So anyone else? Councillor Ashmore, do you want to add anything, or?
No, I'm fine. I appreciate those comments there. So I would just ask if that could be supported, that we omit that word, that C, elect again.
Okay,
and that's
so
it.
I'm just going to ask for some help. So with the motion, do we need that the necessary bylaws substantially in the form as Appendix A be brought forward, or Appendix A as amended? And that the bylaw being a bylaw to repeal and replace 213-113 to regulate the placement of election signs in the city of Kawartha Lakes be repealed, and that this and that's it. So are you okay with that motion, Councillor Ashmore, just tidying it up? We'll amend it when we get to the bylaw. In the bylaw section, we'll amend the bylaw that's been brought forward, but as of this motion, we're just saying the Appendix A as amended, which we're going to amend when we get to bylaws, if it goes through. Okay?
Okay, that's good.
And Councillor Dunn, you're okay with that original motion, the amendment? Okay. I'm going to call the question then. All in favor? That motion's passed. Thank you. Okay, next extraction is Councillor Ashmore, 9318, the proposed direct sale of a portion of Denfield Road property in Lindsay. Go ahead, Councillor Ashmore.
Okay, thank you. I did ask staff, but they were busy, didn't get back to me, but that's fine. I know they were trying to research it, but all I could ask through you to our solicitor, Ms. Carlson, I just wanted a verification that when this property is sold, that the proceeds would be going back to our municipal airport as originally written in the deal to sell this Denfield property, that the proceeds would go back to the airport.
Yes, so the, thank
That's-
you. So the resolutions that we have passed to date indicate that $680,000 are to go to the airport, and that money has already been expended to the airport. So therefore, we will reimburse the reserves that funded the airport, and that is the Property Development Reserve and the ECDEV Reserve equally. Similarly, there is an outstanding council resolution with respect to payment of $75,000 to the old jail. And that payment was made out of the Property Development Reserve. So in order to meet the intent of that resolution, we will be spending $75,000 to refund the Property Development Reserve. So that was confirmed with the treasurer. The resolution that's before you doesn't include all of that. However, we also return to you with the appraisal. And at that time, we will have a better understanding of what the net recovery is with respect to this portion, which is only about 10% of the land size itself. So it won't likely, unless the market is even crazier than we all know, it won't likely be that we can refund all of that into the reserves at this time. So what we'll do is we'll figure out what the net proceeds are and direct that one of the reserves gets the money. And then when the balance of the property sells, then the balance of the money owing to those reserves will be refunded at that time.
Thank you. So I think the answer, Councillor Ashmore, is yes. So what do you want to do with this motion?
Well, I'll just move it as printed. That's fine. I appreciate that.
As printed, and now that you've got clarification, can I get a seconder for that? And then we'll have a discussion. Councillor Yeo, thank you. There's nothing more to speak about, Councillor Ashmore. You're good?
I'm fine, thanks, yeah.
Councillor Yeo, you're good? Okay. Any questions, comments on the original motion as printed? I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. Next extraction is 9320, extracted by Councillor Vail, the Community Partnership and Development Fund. Go ahead, Councillor Vail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start off with a motion to receive, and I have a follow-up afterwards.
Motion to receive, moved by Councillor Vail, seconded by Councillor Seymour Fagan. All in favor? That's passed. Follow-up motion, Councillor Vail, go ahead.
Thank you. I would put forward a motion, and if I get a seconder, I'll speak to it, that we waive the matching requirement for the beautification section of this fund one time this year only.
Okay, moved by Councillor Vail, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Go ahead, Councillor Vail.
Thank you. So through committee of the whole, when I looked at this and everything, and afterwards, I got thinking more and more about it. The groups that apply under the beautification portion are all not-for-profit organizations within our communities that fundraise, put the funds together for the flowers in each of the downtowns and in the communities, so on and so forward. And I'm just wondering, this year, in light of everything that's going on, if we were to waive the matching requirement if it gives them some, a little bit more flexibility in light of their fundraising restrictions and everything. So it doesn't cost the municipality anything more than what it would, but what it does for those groups, because if they have a shortfall in fundraising, or there's other projects in their community that they were going to do or look at doing, but can't do both, right? It gives them some options. They could go with their full program. They could go with a modified reduced program and put money into another area. It just gives them flexibility this year only, considering what's been going on for the past 12 months.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, you second it. Do you want to speak to it?
I will, and through you. I'm in agreement with Councillor Vale on this one in particular. I know a lot of our smaller communities, as said, have not been able to do any fundraising. And I know that they're all feeling the operating pressures of just paying the monthly bills. So I think like as a one-time offer to our communities to help do some beautification out there and keep morale up, I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dunn, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to the mover and the seconder. Do we want, or do you want to double the fund in the same manner that we did with the Partnership Development Fund, so that they can carry on the full extent of their beautification? Because there's an advantage to the city if people beautify it as part of that, or are you just satisfied with waiving the matching funds?
I'm satisfied with moving the matching funds. If council has an appetite to look at matching it or doubling it, so to speak, like we did in the community fund, I'm open to that as a friendly too. If it was to come out of the pandemic relief funds that we have, if that makes sense. I'm just simply trying to make it easier on some of the groups. And I know that they applied knowing that they would have to match, but I also know, good laid plans change and have changed in the last 12 months too.
I would be prepared to move that as a friendly then, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, okay, go ahead. You'll accept that. So you want to
I'll
double the
accept that.
fund. Okay, even though these groups confirmed that they had the matching funding as part of their application. So just keep that in mind. That was part of the application. They couldn't apply unless they had the matching funding, and they all checked that box. So, but if you want to offer it as a friendly, Councillor Vale, will you accept it as a friendly that we double the fund and that the money come out of the pandemic relief reserve? Yes. Second, Councillor Richardson, you seconded it. You okay with that? Okay. I see Director Shanks. Looks like he's got something to say there. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. So the only question with that is it's in relation to one of the 13 groups that received funding. It's the Lindsay Downtown BIA. The already 50% matching funding that they provide through it is through taxes. So is it safe to assume that of the balance of $80,328.30 that was being funded through beautification, that it's the other 12 groups? So in effect, it would be $45,328.30. Would that be correct?
Councillor Dunn, go ahead.
That would be my intention. I forgot about the BIA. So that would certainly be my intention, that we're not doubling the BIA's funding, and that they continue with the program that they always have. Yes, that's strictly they weren't on my radar. I missed them.
Okay, so back to Councillor Vale and Councillor Richardson. Are you okay that your motion that we double the amount approved except for the Lindsay Downtown BIA, and that amount come out of the pandemic reserve contingency, whatever the heck it's called? Are you good with that?
I'm fine with that.
Councillor Richardson?
Yes, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly, go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, my first question, Councillor Dunn and Craig answered. My second one was, is it eligible for the, I'm okay with it as long as it's eligible for the pandemic relief fund, that's all.
Well, yeah, it's just a reserve that we have from, we have enough money in the reserve, and if council chooses to take money out of that and apply it to this, they can certainly do that. It probably would have been a better discussion before the applications went in, but that's fair enough. We can do it now. So it's a valid motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Ashmore, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in favor of it, but I just wanted to ask maybe Director Shanks, when is the second intake going to happen on this program? When do people have the opportunity to have the second intake?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, the second intake is scheduled to be received by July 31st of the calendar year.
Okay, thanks.
And the motion that was put forward said for this year only, so that will include the second intake as it stands. Councillor Seymour Fagan, you had a question?
No, just a comment. I just wanted to thank Councillor Vale and Councillor Dunn and Councillor Richardson, because I do have a few communities that do the beautification. And sure, when they apply, they think that they'll be able to fundraise and get the funds. But when it comes down to it, this year is absolutely different and they might not have been able to fundraise. So the flowers have to be ordered in advance and they might not have the funds for it. So I just want to say thank you. This will make a difference to some of these communities.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Vale, do you want to sum up?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay, everybody's clear on the motion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, that's it for Committee of the Whole. Let me go over planning. Can I get, are there any extractions? I had none ahead of time from the planning agenda. Can I get a motion then that the minutes of the April 7th, 2021 Planning Advisory Committee meeting be received and the recommendations included in section 10.3 of the agenda be adopted? Moved by Councillor Vale, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions, comments? All in favor? That motion's passed. Thank you. We'll go over to the consent agenda. The only extraction right now I have from the consent agenda is 1115, the request for a tender for supply and delivery of unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel has been extracted by Councillor Ashmore. Are there any other extractions from the consent agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Seymour Fagan, I believe you have that. Go ahead.
Do you want me to read all the numbers too or no?
I'm sorry, say that again.
You want me to read all the numbers out or no?
No, just the,
Okay.
if you just do the 11.1 of the agenda, save and accept the one extraction.
Yeah, okay. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Vale that all the proposed resolutions shown in section 11.1 of the agenda be approved and adopted by council in the order that they appear on the agenda and sequentially numbered. And it's 11.1.5 is the one that has been extracted.
So save and accept 11.1.5.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll call the motion. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Councillor Ashmore, your extraction. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Just a question to staff there on this. Like I'm Stinson Company, they're a good company. I know of them, like in Eastern Ontario, they're huge. But do we have any local, I'm sure we had local suppliers that did bid on this. Isn't there some sort of weight that a local supplier, a local vendor, a local business could have in this? This is a big contract. And I'm just wondering, what weight does a local business have when they try and I don't need to get into the depths of purchasing and all that, but it's quite a big contract. And just wondering if we've if we've exhausted all our local suppliers, and have they participated in the process fully?
Well, I'll turn it over to the director. I'll turn it over to the director, Councillor, but it's a tender, and as you know, tenders go out, and we're obligated under the conditions of the tender to take the lowest bidder. So we've had this conversation 3 or 4 times, but I'll turn it over to the director. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Through the mayor, yes, this was a tender, so it went out competitively. We did have some local bidders that responded. But as the mayor indicated, when it goes to the lowest price, and the lowest price was not the local bidder.
Councillor Ashmore?
Okay, thanks for that. I'll just move it as printed then.
Moved as printed. Second? Councillor Vale? Any questions, comments? Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, we're just zipping along here. So we're over to petitions. Item 12, we have none. Bylaws. We have to extract, so Councillor Ashmore, you have the bylaws, but we have to extract 14.1.1 because we're going to amend that bylaw, which is the election sign bylaw because of the change we just made. Any other extractions from bylaws? Okay, then Councillor Ashmore, if you want to go ahead extracting, in your motion, extracting 14.1.1.
Okay, thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly, that the bylaws shown in section 14.1 of the agenda, namely items 14.1.1.2 and including 14.1.0, save and accept 14.1.1, be read a first, second, and third time passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. 14.1.1, the extracted bylaw. I just need a mover and a seconder that a bylaw to regulate the placement of election signs in the city of Kawartha Lakes, repealing and replacing bylaw 218-077 as amended by removing section 2.04 in brackets C, be read a first, second, and third time, and passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached. And that lines up with our previous motion. Moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Vale. Any questions? All in favor? That's passed. Thank you. We'll move down to item 15. Notice of motion, we have none. Closed session. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the closed session agenda, please? Councillor Dunn and Richardson. All in favor? That's passed. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in closed session items? Seeing none. We're about to go into close, so I'm just going to read you something to consider under item 6.16.3. All remaining staff, with the exception of the CAO, City Clerk, and City Solicitor, are now instructed to leave the electronic meeting. As per our procedural bylaw requirements, I am asking all remaining participants in our meeting today to confirm to me by raising your hand that you are in a private room where no other person can overhear the deliberations and your internet connection is secure and not publicly accessible. Can I get confirmation from everybody that that is the case, please? I got a thumbs up. Councillor Ashmore, are you? Okay, thank you. Then can I get a mover and a seconder that council convene into closed session at 2:09 p.m. pursuant to section 239.2 of the Municipal Act in order to consider matters identified in section 16.3 of the regular council meeting agenda of Tuesday, April 20th, namely items 16.3.1, 2, and including 16.3.5. Mover, Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Councillor Yeo. All in favor? That's passed. We are going into closed session, so at this point, the meeting broadcast will now end for members of the public. The live stream of the meeting on YouTube will now be temporarily paused for members of the public, and when closed session is complete, the live stream of the meeting will resume to address the remaining open session items on the agenda. So we'll take 5 minutes to get rounded up here, and then we'll come back and do closed session. Thank you. Okay, so we're in open session. Matters from closed session, so I'll turn it over to Madam Clerk. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the matters from closed session, that the confidential closed session minutes from the regular council meeting on March 20th, 2021 were approved. Item 16.3.2 on the report on the ED 2021-015. A motion is required that Wesley Found of Lynborough Property Corporation and Hobart's Restaurant be appointed to the Lindsay Business Improvement Area Local Board for the remaining term of council in accordance with Section 2.02 of Bylaw Number 2008-212.
Thank you. And moved by Councillor Dunn, seconded by Deputy Mayor O'Reilly. Any questions? Call the question. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. Go ahead.
It says the clerk's mute is on, but I'm not sure if it is or not.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear okay?
Can you hear me?
I can hear.
It is a little quiet, but
I can hear you.
Okay. Item 16.3.3, the legal report 2021-005. Council was provided with an update on the status of the ongoing litigation respecting the property located at 6343 Highway 35, Copaconk, and an opportunity to request information and advice from the city solicitor. Item 16.3.4 being report LGL 2021-006. The city solicitor provided an update to council pertaining to litigation commenced by the city against Greer Galloway Group, being court file 008-16, and received instruction pertaining to the same. Item 6.3.5 being report CKL 2021-006. Council received and approved the 2021 Accessibility Awareness Recognition Award recipients report.
That's it. Thank you. That's it for matters from closed. Item 18 is a confirming bylaw. Deputy Mayor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ashmore, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held Tuesday, April 20, 2021 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, numbered, signed, and the corporate seal attached.
Thank you. All in favor? That's passed. And can I get a motion, please, to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Yeo, seconded by Councillor Dunn. All in favor? That's passed. Have a good evening, folks. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.